That is a peacock. Hi. Like versus as. Do you know when to use them confidently? When to use like in contrast to when to use as? Well, if you're not quite sure of it, this is the video for you. This is Susan Broder from Speak Languages and Travel the World, here to help you improve your English with minimum effort and maximum benefit. I'm here today to tell you how to be able to distinguish these two. And if you watch to the end of my explanation, I'll also give you some anecdotes in which there are these example sentences so you can get a better feel for the language. Because in the end, it's not about knowing the rules, but about being able to use them confidently. As I was saying, I'd like to help you understand the differences between like and as. As I was saying, as is followed by a subject and a verb. And like all language YouTubers, I enjoy helping students learn English and how to express themselves easily in the English language by giving you lots of examples and not only explanations, so that it comes quite naturally to you. Like all YouTubers, like is followed by a noun. So let's dive straight into my explanation and have a look at these rules before I give you the anecdotes with all the examples. How do we use like versus as? And what's the difference between as and like? So like and as are often confused in English. Like is a preposition followed by a noun or a pronoun, which is the object of the sentence. And like illustrates the noun or the pronoun and can't be used before a clause containing a verb. So there is only a noun and a pronoun. As is a conjunction followed by a subject and a verb, and it joins two clauses, so it can be used before a clause containing a verb because as is followed by a subject and a verb. So they are both used to talk about how things are similar. Like is usually used to compare two things and only two things. For example, he looks like his mother, so he's physically similar to his mother. And the little boy, like his dad, loves playing rugby. So similarly to his father, he loves playing rugby. So here like means similarly to, and this like means physically similarly to. As instead often means the way and the manner. For example, nobody cooks the way my mother does. So nobody cooks as my mother does. As is used because there's a subject here and a verb here after the way. This verb is the verb does, as we saw here. So nobody cooks as my mother does means nobody cooks the way my mother does. Here in the first example with like, there was only a noun, whilst in the second example there was a noun and a verb. Another example. He can't play rugby the way he used to. Here is the way. Now, play, we haven't said play because play is implied. It's imagined, but we haven't said it. So we say he can't play rugby as he used to. We intend he used to play, but we say just he can't play rugby as he used to. So as is used because the verb play is implied. We've imagined it even if we haven't said it. So let's look back at these examples again. With like, we said we only use the noun. He looks like his mother and his mother is the noun. The little boy like his dad, the dad is the noun, loves playing rugby. Instead, as means the way in which something happens. So nobody cooks as my mother does. Nobody cooks the way my mother does. And we also have mother, the subject or the noun, and does, which is the verb. Then he can't play rugby as he used to. As is used with the subject and the verb, which we haven't said, but we imagine it's implied. So he can't play rugby as he used to, but we're imagining play. However, in spoken English, in colloquial English, like is often used instead of as. So we can say he climbs like a monkey, means he climbs the way a monkey does, or he climbs as a monkey does. Here we've got the monkey as the subject and does as the verb. Nobody cooks like my mother. Nobody cooks the way my mother does. Or nobody cooks as my mother does. So we've got as, subject and verb. He can't play rugby like he used to. He can't play rugby the way he used to. He can't play rugby as he used to, implied play. More examples, but let's reiterate. Like is followed by a noun or a pronoun. I'm like my mum, whilst my sister is like my dad, which means we are physically similar. We could take a trip to the seaside just like old times, similar to in the past. Instead, as is followed by a subject and a verb, and we say, just as his sister was the best in her class, he was the best in his class too. So this means just the way his sister was the best in her class, he was also the best. His sister is the subject and was is the verb. As I told you, as, I'm the subject, told is the verb, the party starts at 7 p.m. As we expected, we the subject, expected the verb, the weather was awful. Now, other uses of as is also used with a preposition. For example, as in the Great Depression, the economy suffered a great blow with COVID-19. This means similar to the period of the Great Depression. Salaries were raised as in all industries. So similarly, salaries were raised in all industries. As in is often used to make the meaning I mean. She's a bit thick, as in she's not as bright as her sister. So thick means the opposite of bright. It means you're slow at understanding, and bright is you're fast at understanding. She's a bit thick. I mean she's not as bright as her sister. So I mean is equivalent to as in. I really love coffee, as in I drink at least 4 to 5 cups a day. As in means I mean. I really love coffee. I mean I drink at least 4 to 5 cups a day. We can use as in certain expressions, such as means, for example, as you know, as we agreed, as you requested. Tell me as soon as you know whether you can come. As you know, I'm getting married in June and I'd like you to be my best man. Best man is the person who accompanies the man to the altar, and maid of honor is the person who accompanies the woman to the altar. So best man is for the groom and maid of honor is for the bride. Maid of honor. Maid of honor for the bride. Best man for the groom. The bride and groom are the couple that gets married. You can do what you like as long as you know the consequences. I'll be there for you as we agreed. As you requested, we've given you a refund. We also use as to give comparisons. He's as talented as his sister. I'm as tall as my dad. You can see that we also used as soon as here. Function and comparison. As is used to talk about jobs, roles. So he works there as a designer means his job is a designer. It's also used for illustrating function or use. I use my bedroom as an office. It means its use is an office. I'm using the bedroom, and in this moment it's my office. It's also used to talk about actions or situations that are similar. In Italy, as in all Mediterranean countries, they use olive oil in cooking. However, colloquially, so in spoken English, it would be perfectly acceptable to say, in Italy, like in all Mediterranean countries, they use olive oil for cooking. Like is a little more informal. Here are some more examples. As your mother, I'll give you the best advice I can. Now, this person is the mother, and her job is to be a mother. So, since I'm your mother, I'll give you the best advice I can. Instead, like your mother, I'll give you the best advice I can means similarly to your mother, I'll give you the best advice I can, but I'm not your mother. So these are two different situations. In the first situation, I'm the mother and I'm going to give you the best advice I can. In the second situation, I'm comparing myself to your mother, but I'm not your mother. So just like your mother would do it, I'll give you the best advice I can. So here it's very important to distinguish if it's as your mother or like your mother. Like is a comparison, whilst as is taking the job of mother because I'm the mother. Similarly, you can see he worked like a slave means he worked the way a slave does. A slave is a person who works for free as his main job, and there were a lot of slaves in Egypt in biblical times, let's say. So he worked like a slave, he worked the way a slave does, he worked really, really hard. Instead, he worked as a slave means his job was to be a slave. It's very different. Or we can even say he worked as a slave, like in Egypt, means his job was a slave. And it's similar to the period of the Egyptians who had a lot of slaves. Instead, she used her umbrella as a weapon, means the function of this umbrella is not to protect you from the rain, but to protect you from danger, and so you can use it as a weapon. A gun is a weapon, a bow and arrow are weapons, a bomb is a weapon. Something which can hurt another person is a weapon, and you can use an umbrella as a weapon because it has a sharp point to keep people at a distance. Now, like can be used in other ways too. For example, we can say he swims like a fish means he swims similarly to a fish. This is an example like the ones above, so similar to the ones above. Instead, you look like a ghost means that you physically have something similar to a ghost. You are physically similar to a ghost. And it's very easy to remember because the word look is the looks you have, or when I look at you, I imagine you are a ghost. So look like is always a physical thing. Instead, you are like your mother is something that is referring to your character. Your character is similar to your mother's character. And the same in the interrogative, which is often less obvious. Is he like your brother? Means is his character like your brother's character? So look like is a physical thing. Be like is character. But if I say he swims like a fish, it means he's similar to a fish. Now, in formal English, particularly if you're writing in formal English, you should not use like for colloquial expressions. Absolutely not. You should substitute it with as if. So you can't say, it looks like there's going to be a thunderstorm. That's a very colloquial expression. You should say, it looks as if there's going to be a thunderstorm. Or the protagonist feels like he's vulnerable. You can't say that. You should say, the protagonist feels as if he's vulnerable. He looks like he has had a bad day. Looks as if he's had a bad day. They are perfectly good expressions in colloquial English, in spoken English, but not good for English which is formal, such as in academic texts. And finally, when giving examples in formal situations, such as in academic texts, you should not use like, but you should substitute it with such as. The protagonist has many qualities like generosity and compassion. You should really say, the protagonist has many qualities such as generosity and compassion. I've travelled to many unusual countries like Lesotho, Nepal and Eswatini, the old Swaziland. And you should really say, I've travelled to many unusual countries such as Lesotho, Nepal and Eswatini, Swaziland. We love Oriental food like sushi. We shouldn't use it. We should say we love Oriental food such as sushi. As I said, the first form is perfectly correct in spoken English, but not suitable for written academic English. So, as you can see, it's not quite so easy, because not only are there the rules, but in spoken English, in colloquial English, we're not so strict about it, but then if you need to use it in academic circumstances, you can't use the colloquial expressions. So, like and as are a little bit tricky. Here are some anecdotes now for you to be able to pick up these elements more naturally and just use them without having to think about all the rules. I'd now like to give you some example sentences, in short, anecdotes such as the following. My friend's mum had Alzheimer's and she became just like a child. As my 2-year-old daughter entered with a doll, her eyes lit up. She took my daughter's doll and started rocking it like a baby. They played together as if they were the same age. My dad worked as an engineer, and like all engineers, he was terribly precise and fussy. He smoked like a chimney and loved his job so much he worked like crazy. Now, crazy is an adjective, and you can't put an adjective after like, but in this case, it's very colloquial, and what we really mean is he worked as if he were crazy. But he didn't work like a horse, as in working physically hard. My sister is as organised as my dad and, like him, wants everything to be perfect. She doesn't look like him, but she is like him character-wise. As you might not know, I'm more like my mum, and I also look like her the older I get. I'm very lucky because I always sleep like a log, as in I sleep very deeply. I love skiing, but I don't ski as much as I used to. I started using my garage as a gym to keep fit. I hope these anecdotes helped you a little bit, and the best thing you can do now is to write your own examples in the comments below, because it's only using the language that you'll actually be able to learn how to use it. As I say, speaking teaches you to speak, and practicing the various little tricky points will help you learn the tricky points themselves. Now, if you haven't already done so, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that I can notify you of the next video I upload. That is a peacock. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!